Hey, welcome to my back garden, Clint Grove here from the Lifeshot podcast. This week I spoke to Sally Acton from a company called Talk, and what she deals with is employee experience. So what's it like working for your company? Is your company a great place to work? What do they do about health and wellness? Do they encourage you to take time off, to have their work-life balance? Do they encourage physical fitness or mental well-being? So what type of things can your company do to help your employees to feel like they're working at a great company? So this week we speak to Sally Acton from Talk. Hey, welcome everyone to Lifeshot podcast, the health and wellness show. And today I've got Sally Acton with us. And Sally is on the show. She runs a company in Gauteng, South Africa, called Talk, which helps companies with their employee experience. Talk exists to help business owners and upper level management connect with the people that work for them in order to create environments where people can flourish. So Sally and her company want businesses to make inclusivity and education a real and ongoing part of its culture so that they can lift more people out of poverty. So Talk has a desire to get businesses to recognize the entrepreneurial heartbeat of Africa. Sally loves working with businesses to get all their employees involved and engaged. She is specifically passionate about getting people healthier in all aspects of their lives. And that's really why I wanted to talk to you today, Sally, because this is all about health and wellness, this podcast. And it goes without saying that Sally is passionate about health and fitness herself and enjoys both weightlifting and powerlifting. Sally even represented South Africa at the Masters Weightlifting Championship in Barcelona in 2018. In fact, Sally, I wasn't planning this, but I want to start off by welcoming you and then tell us about this weightlifting. What was it? The Weightlifting Championship. I'd really like to hear about that.
Hi, Clint. Thanks for having me. It was an amazing experience. Something that I never thought that I'd be able to represent my country at. I started doing CrossFit after I had my son, my second child, and I got really into weightlifting. I thought it was just something I'd never had exposure to, and something that I just really loved.
Become like a bit of an addiction, maybe.
Yeah. I think also the type A personality, like how much can I lift, because you can never lift all of the weight. So there's always just that constant, getting better, even if it's half a kilo or 1 kilo. I got into that and I loved it. And I was privileged to have some really great coaches who believed in me and said, this is totally achievable. And we worked really hard and I qualified for the national team. And I went over and it was an amazing experience to represent your country is something incredible. And
Was it like a once-off thing, or are you gonna continue doing this?
Unfortunately, so I unfortunately had a shoulder injury. I tore my rotator cuff not long after it. So I've been doing all the rehab. So then I moved over to powerlifting because it's less intensive on your shoulder. So I'm currently doing a lot of powerlifting, and hopefully once the lockdown ends here in South Africa, we'll be able to start competing again, and then let's see.
Yeah, it's almost like powerlifting is cool, but you can't do it really during lockdown unless you got all the equipment at your house. So, at home you can do like push-ups and all this body weight workouts. But when it comes to powerlifting, I suppose you need the equipment, right?
Yeah, to a degree. I must say my coach is amazing. He's done a lot of work with us doing plyometric versions of the different powerlifting holds, so that we've actually been able to increase strength. And it is amazing how much work you can do with just a kettlebell and a towel and a weighted vest. I think that I've actually been able to do such a lot of great base work that I'm quite excited to get back and actually see. I think my strength has probably improved.
Oh, that's good. Isometrics is powerful. I'm kind of going off topic here, but I like the idea of isometric holds because I never thought about it, but holding something like something heavy for a long extended period of time actually increases your strength. And you think, well, I gotta do reps. I gotta do these reps to get stronger. But actually, if you just hold something for really long, increases your strength. Am I right?
Absolutely. And let me tell you that deadlifting, standing on a towel and just holding that towel in the correct deadlift position is untold agony and exhaustion. You are absolutely sweating like anything after a few sessions of that. So
it reminds me of I was listening to Wim Hof. I don't know if you know him, the guy who does the breathing, the Wim Hof method, and he was talking about a story, a guy who challenged him to do, I can't remember the pose, but I think there's something about the horse pose or something. But anyway, you're just basically haunching, you're doing like a squat position with your hands up. And he said he held that position for 1 hour. And this guy's like almost 60 years old, right? And I'm like, I can't even hold that for like 2 minutes, never mind 1 hour. It's crazy stuff. So that's like kind of an isometric hold with no weights, but just to be in a squat position for an hour is intense, I think. Madness.
Like that guy who can plank for 4 hours. I mean, that's amazing.
Even I saw a lady broke a world record of a plank recently. It is just amazing. So Sally, I want to talk to you today. So for our listeners, some of the topics we want to cover are, well, in fact, it's all about employee experience, and that's what your company's about. Talk.pro, and it's not talk as in talking, but talk as in the power of an engine, right? Something like that. And so it's talk.pro, and we're going to talk about what you experience as somebody who worked for somebody else. And we want to get into a bit of the health and wellness side of that, as well as just the general side of like, what can employees or managers do to make their companies a place that is attractive for their employees to work for. So, most of us are either working for someone, or in fact, we might be working for ourselves, but so no matter what, you're in a job of some sort. So, what you do in that job, or what that job does to you, I suppose, matters. What it does to your mental health. Does it make your life better or worse? Does it allow you time to look after your body, or does it encourage fitness, for example? So this coronavirus has shed so much light on what it means to work, for companies that are not like construction companies, or let's say waste disposal, or key workers where you need to be there physically. I think it's really stretched the boundary of what it means to have a workforce. So, does that workforce have to be in a physical place? And if we're not together, what does it mean for creativity and idea sharing? So Sally, in your opinion, what has COVID-19 done to the attitudes, I suppose, towards, workforces, both the good and the bad, from your perspective?
Okay, so I think what COVID-19 has done is that it is exposed both the good and the bad in the workplace. I think whereas before employee experience and focusing on employee engagement was almost seen as quite a nice to have, it has now become something that has actually been a game changer for business. If you take employees that are completely committed and engaged with their company, they have a belief that resonates with the company value system, they are and have been more likely to accept, potential reduction in salaries or difficult working environments, because they are so aligned with that company. They are willing to take on the struggle and take on the extra responsibility to help to get the company through it, without requiring extra compensation or anything. And I think we've seen those companies have not necessarily flourished under these conditions, but have certainly weathered the storm.
Yeah.
And companies where, values and their beliefs are more just writing on the wall that people see when they walk in, but don't actually have an active relationship, if you want, with their employees, they've struggled. Because people have not been as engaged with keeping the company afloat and keeping it running. So I think that's been very interesting to see. I think people have also now understood that employees are adults and actually can manage their work-life blend or their work-life balance with a lot more ease than what they had previously thought. I think seeing the work from home environment has also added a much more human element to business, where people have started again to realize that everybody has more than one role in this life. You can be a business person, an athlete, a mother, a father, a partner, a caregiver to an elderly parent. There are many roles. And I think that businesses have started to accept that an employee can be fulfilling more than one of those roles at a time and can still be an effective employee, provided that the trust and flexibility is given to that employee. So I think there's been some amazingly good things that have come out of it. And I think that the way that the world works will be very different for employees moving forward. I think that we're going to see a lot more flexibility in the workplace, a lot more people understanding that you can go and watch your daughter play netball and still be an incredibly effective employee.
Yep.
And that people are going to be paid for what they add in terms of value, rather than being paid simply to attend a job, if that makes sense.
That's powerful. I fully agree with that, because it's not a really, there's a thought that was posed. Well, no, I wouldn't say it's a thought, but it's something I saw once, where a guy was putting his feet up. I think it might have been in a movie, actually. He was putting his feet up at the desk, and one of the other employees was complaining about why this guy was loafing about. And his boss said to him, well, this guy made us £1 million last year. So, it's not about, how much you're working, how much time you're putting in there, but it's about really what are you bringing to the company. So, yeah, I fully agree. It's a powerful thing. But I want to also mention that there's probably some people being left behind, or at least in particular, because my wife's a teacher, and I can see the stresses that teachers are going under at the moment, especially here in England, where they're thinking about having teachers work during the summer holidays. So in a way, teachers have been going full on. It's just full on since COVID happened, organizing home learning. I've seen my wife work more now than she ever has, checking her emails at 8-9 o'clock at night. Even on Sunday, she's working. So I think, though, to me, that's the bad part that's come out for certain sectors. But for me personally, the job that I do, it's been great. And a lot of the guys that I work with, my colleagues, we're software development. And so these guys are like loving life, because they're like, some of them are those reclusive type people. Not everyone in IT, by the way, is reclusive and doesn't like to talk to people. But I work as a data analyst or data engineer and a BI analyst, or say BI developer. And I'm enjoying it. But there's people, I think, on the fringes that are probably getting it. I wouldn't say fringes, but at least on certain sectors that are having it pretty bad. Have you experienced that?
No, definitely. I think what it has exposed is a lot of the industries. Teaching is a really good example of that. Has been where the teachers haven't, and those specific sectors haven't been embracing technology and communication in the same way that other businesses have. And I think that suddenly there was a very steep learning curve, and I think it was thrown out to those sectors, and everybody was expected to immediately be able to onboard this and get up to speed, which was pretty unfair. But I think that it will in the future enhance those sectors, and I think that those sectors will be able to actually get more of a blended method going. And I think that it's also highlighted a need for ongoing education and development in those sectors for the actual service providers themselves and the educators themselves. I mean, we see that obviously in South Africa, it was a huge challenge for our teachers, where a lot of the schools lack basic facilities, let alone Wi-Fi and the ability to teach learners remotely. And we're seeing a huge skills gap where teachers were suddenly expected to be able to move to online learning. But what we forget about the learning path is that so many so many learning opportunities happen where you are taught to learn. So you actually have to be ready to learn in a specific sense. So if you think about the amount of yes moments that you have as a child, so you do a puzzle that has 4 pieces and your parents congratulate you and you move on to a 6-piece or an 8-piece puzzle. You build a certain resilience and a certain belief in your own abilities. And what we find specifically in Africa is that a lot of the teachers and educators haven't even had the amount of yes moments with regards to technology, and are suddenly being expected to be able to now not only use it really well, but be able to also facilitate two-way communications with children that have also not had those same opportunities, and still be able to deliver an amazing teaching experience. So what we've tried to do, and I mean, I see a lot of companies working on it here in Africa specifically, is to try and actually facilitate those yes moments before getting everybody onto the new tech, if that makes sense.
No, it's amazing. It's great insight. Actually, I hadn't thought about that, because it is true that our company, we moved to the cloud and everything was so digital. We got Microsoft Teams. We just so used to working remotely, because some people do work from home, prior to this coronavirus, and some people don't. So there's always we're always chatting to people globally. And so I suppose you hit the nail on the head there. Like, teachers were just thrown into this digital world without the platforms that they really needed. So that's a great insight. So I want to move on to another question about fun in a company. Because is there sometimes an attitude of, well, let's just get back to business. We can't have too much fun, otherwise our sales are going to drop. How important is it for employees and bosses and managers to make sure that their employees are actually having fun at their company?
I think it's very important. I think that we see there are really 2 or 3 major motivators for people, and fun is certainly, and enjoyment is certainly one of them. I mean, people like to do things that make them feel good. People like to do things that they enjoy. So if you can bring elements like that into a business and into business process, it definitely does make a difference. I think that there's a big difference between putting fun in the sense of, let me think how I'm going to phrase this. Putting fun in terms of gimmicky competitions versus actually creating fun as a part of your culture and a part of your
there's a big difference there.
Huge. And I think that that's where people and companies can get it quite wrong. People need to understand that this fun element is going to be something that's going to be available to them all the time. It's not something that is just going to be driven for 6 weeks and then abandoned, because I think that can lead to a huge lack of trust in the initiatives that the companies are running. And I think that trust is one of the major things that companies need to focus on, and building that transparency and trust with their employees. So we try and look at the different segments. We're a very data-driven company, so we try and look at the different segments and try to understand what the motivators are, and to understand that people are motivated by different elements. I mean, probably people like you and I are super competitive, and to be on top of a leaderboard is all the incentive that we need, regardless of whether we get something or not. But there are other people that are driven by self-betterment. They want to learn, they want to grow. There are others that are very involved in things that will speak to their own values, which is potentially about valuing family and the development of their own children. So how can we motivate them by incorporating elements of free learning or of free experience for their family? That's more motivating. So we try and look at how we can have different rewards and recognition built in for our different types of employees, and how that can translate to a fun but practical element for business to incorporate into their employee experience.
It's very good. I remember working for a small company before I joined this big company that I work for now. And the owner of that company actually gave us a membership to the National Trust, which is here in England. And so it was just like a little extra to say, hey, here's a membership, go and enjoy the weekends with your family. And I think that even though it's not fun at work, it's something that's fun as a part of your package. So is that something you guys look at as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to speak for Talk as a company, the one big thing that I noticed that was a big motivator was for my team was the fact that everybody loves to be very creative, and we very much encourage the side hustle, as it's known. So I like everybody that works here to have another interest or business or something that they're running, because I think that also speaks to passion projects, and that's very motivating. But the one problem is that nobody had a lot of time. Mm-hmm. So at Talk, we have every single month, every employee has to take a 4-day weekend. It is mandatory. You're not allowed to not take your weekend.
Oh, wow.
So once a month, everyone has to take the Friday and the Monday off, and that they are not allowed to log on. They're not allowed to be online. They're not allowed to engage with anybody from work.
Yeah.
And the time is to be spent on reading or doing all those extra things that you want to do. I mean, maybe it's spending time with family or doing yoga, taking time for yourself, journaling, going for a run, going away, but having that free space to actually be creative for our team is so important. So that's something that we incorporated, because it was, and I mean, the performance of the team is, it's chalk and cheese from when we didn't have that.
Yeah.
Everyone's so much more productive, and they work so much less than they used to.
It is weird, like, oh, let's have a 4-day week. And I'm not saying you have a 4-day week all the time, but it has been studies about this 4-day week and the productivity of people being the same, if not better, which is really quite surprising. But we want to move on to the next question, which is communication actually between so the employer and the employees, or between managers and the subordinates, whatever you want to call it. How important is that? And do you think that sometimes it's just a given? Like if you're from a company where it happens as a matter of culture, then it's like, well, I didn't know that other companies weren't doing that. So is there an example of like certain types of industries or sectors that are pretty bad at that? And what can they do, and why is it important?
Yeah, it's absolutely key. I would say that communication and transparency are the two things that I'm most passionate about, and I try to encourage all businesses to get right. Communication is a two-way street. It's great. First of all, the company needs to inform the employee about what's going on as transparently and openly as possible. Because everybody actually wants to help. Everybody wants to make sure that their job and their livelihood is secure. They want to know how they can help. They're desperate to help, in fact. They just need to know how they can help. And I think that a lot of companies don't look at their employees as, they're actually an incredible source and wealth of information about the clients, about processes, about where businesses can do better. In companies where you see that they have submission points for employees being able to incorporate their own ideas, you see massive cost savings. You see great innovation coming out of those companies. We work with one company in the luxury hospitality industry, and one of the guys that works in the workshop servicing the vehicles came up with an idea about a different way to park the game viewing vehicles, which sounds like something quite strange, but it ended up saving the company hundreds of thousands of dollars every single year in fuel bills because of a more efficient way of parking and driving the vehicles.
Amazing.
So, for me, that's just, it's just something so simple, and it's helped them save so much money. And I think that if you allow employees the channels and the communication channels to be able to give you ideas, feedback, how are they feeling? Let them vote on things. Marketing initiatives is another one where I see huge value. Companies that launch their launch their marketing initiatives internally first see massive positive input from their employees, because their employees understand whether or not this will actually work for the customer. They're often more practical. They understand what the product does better before it goes to market. And I think it also lets the employees feel really included in the direction that the company is going, and also lets them know what is being sold to their customer. Specifically in retail, sometimes you see that the employees at the call center don't know what went out to market. So someone will phone in and say, I'd like to take up this ADSL package, and the call center person's like, oh, awesome, I don't even know what that is, you know? So I think that there are numerous ways that you can get those communication channels flowing, and business only benefits.
Yeah, for sure. And the bigger the company, sometimes you think, you know, you hear people complain about, oh, I phoned this company and they said they didn't know, and they put me to another department, and they said, go to this department, and you're like, oh, I'm getting tossed around here and there. And you almost feel like no one's communicating within the company about who does what. So I'm sure in bigger companies, it must be a problem, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you know, customer experience has been a buzzword for so long now, but I mean, you cannot have a great customer experience without an absolutely superb employee experience, because you can have the greatest marketing and sales team in the world, but as soon as they start engaging with your employees, if they are not engaged, that disconnect is felt, because it's human. We're humans. We can feel when somebody doesn't care.
Yeah.
So that's when the whole customer experience falls over. So you've got to get everybody at base level really engaged and passionate. I mean, that's why your Amazon and everybody does so well, is because everyone is so passionate about the brand that they work for. That's why they get such great customer service.
That's really good. So about the employee experience then. So one of the things I see that you guys focus on is that you look at the employee's journey. So from when they get hired to when they leave, you know, what was the experience? So physically they might be there at the job, but they also have a digital experience. So they've got an experience of, you know, the platforms that they doing their work on. So talk to us about that employee journey and why that's important to like analyze and get right.
Cool. So an employee journey starts before an employee even walks through the door, ideally. Ideally, you know, you would like your employees to start to get introductory communication before they even arrive. Messages from the CEO speaking about the company's purpose and their mission, why they are going to be important, and how they're an effective cog in the machine. Understanding how the companies are structured. You know, this is the holding company, these are the sub brands. This type of thing is really important for an employee to understand before they arrive, and can create a really positive experience before they even walk through the door. They're really excited now. They're getting to know about the brand. It's also a practical mechanism. I mean, sending things like, watch these 2 videos and understand which provident fund you're going to choose. Make an informed decision before you arrive. This is what you need to bring. So all of those digital touch points are obviously important. And then there's the physical element. So we see it quite a lot where companies will go and headhunt specifically for specific positions. And then this person will arrive at the company at great expense to the company, and they don't have a desk, or they don't have a laptop for the first 5 days. And that's when the breakdown starts. I mean, almost 37% of new employees leave within the first 6 months of being at a new company.
37%, that's quite high.
37%, that's huge. If you consider that you're still often paying recruiters for 6 months commission, you are spending an unbelievable amount of money. And you're just getting that churn. So it's really important that you look at your employee experience and you say, okay, cool, how can I identify where the problems are? And that comes back to the communication side. If you understand and you're communicating with your new employee, and on their first day they say they can let you know digitally, I don't have a desk and I don't have a laptop. And that can automate a workflow that goes to HR. So HR can immediately get on the job. You can turn that negative experience into a positive and create a brand ambassador for life.
Yeah.
And then if you're looking at the entire journey and you're seeing that they are getting to improve themselves, they're getting to change and grow as humans, people are going to enjoy their experience. Everybody wants to improve ultimately. And then all the way to when they eventually leave your company, you know, that exit interview, that leaving process, you know, handled professionally and with great support can be an incredibly great experience for all of you. And they can refer you your next great employee. You know, people will leave, they'll move, they'll go to a new business. That's just the way it is. But it doesn't have to be something that's taken personally or a negative experience. It can be a hugely positive experience for both of you. So I think that it's a really important thing to get right, and it's a really important thing to be actually mapped out and to see where those different touch points are, and are you actually fulfilling them, and are you actually creating a employee experience at those points.
So I'm just thinking about my brother who worked for a company in Durban. This is now, must have been 20 years ago. Time flies. Showing my age here. But I'm just thinking that he was at this job and he was a salesperson, and he worked there for many years, and he seemed like quite a good part of the company, and he used to go on trips with his boss sometimes here and there. Even went on the boss's helicopter. So you think, hey, he was up there. There was good communication. There was camaraderie within the workforce. And then when it was time for him, he said, I'm going to move to another job now. They almost chucked him out the same day, cold, like as in, here you go, pack your bags, gone. And they were almost offended that he wanted to leave the company. I thought that it was a bad experience for him on leaving that company. And I don't think he would have ever had a good word to say about that company again, because they treated him in that way, just because he wanted to maybe try something else and try a different job. Have you had experience like that with other companies?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, I also run my own company, and it's, it is hard sometimes when you've had somebody that you've had working with you for a long time. You can't take it personally. They're not leaving you. They're moving on, and they're growing, and they're going to a new experience. What I think that people lose then is the ability for somebody that they have a great relationship with to give them candid feedback as to why they're leaving. I mean, for me to know that your brother was leaving because he'd been offered a growth opportunity that potentially I could have offered him 2 years ago is hugely valuable to me as a business owner. Or to know, even just to know that there's nothing I could have done, and he just wanted to go and explore something else, or he wanted to relocate, or he decided to go in a different direction. But to understand, what has his experience been like? Where does he think we do really well? Where does he think we could have done better? People as they're leaving can give you some really great insight into how you're running your company, and they feel the freedom then to be a lot more honest often than during reviews. So I think it's such a key touch point. And for that person to leave, I mean, my mom always used to say to me, like, never burn your bridges. And I know that's
true.
It really is a powerful thing. I mean, I know that, pretty much everyone that's ever left Talk, I would hire back, and they would come back because we left on such good terms, and there's such mutual respect and understanding that, you never want them to leave and to feel negatively towards a decade of their life. I mean, that's awful, and that's really sad.
It is sad. It was sad for me at the time, and I thought, it's
it's devastating.
It's a valuable thing, and I haven't thought about it because obviously I'm not in the industry that you are in, but that's really powerful for people listening now. If you're a business owner, to think, what is my exit strategy for employees, and to really nail that down. And if you need help, of course, reach out to Sally Acton at talk.pro. So that's going to be your best bet, because you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel and learn everything about that. So Sally, let's talk about health and wellness at companies, because obviously that's my thing, and you're also passionate about health and wellness. So we did speak in the beginning about, what's the job doing to you? Does it make your life better or worse? So I've got a question here where maybe, where employees are committed and engaged in business, the business thrives. So that's something that you said in one of your email marketing. So we get those employees that are really engaged in the business does well. So now, as this is a health and wellness podcast, I'd like to ask you specifically around the company's culture, when it comes to encouraging, let's say, fitness and movement, as well as relaxation, should we say, for mental health, and that work-life balance. So let's talk about the culture of companies. Are they promoting that type of thing? Should they be? What type of emphasis? How important is it for them?
Well, I mean, I think it's massive. Firstly, when a company starts to thrive and they have an engaged employee culture, I think that it's something that the employer needs to look at then, and they need to look at how they can reinvest that back into employee wellness. So, I mean, as we all know, the fitter you are, the healthier you are, the more able you are to actually do your job. And I'm not just talking about physically able in the case of construction, but I'm talking about actually able to sustain energy. If you're fit and you're well, you're healthy, you're eating well, you're sick less often, you are able to sustain concentration, you're able to sustain your energy expenditure for longer periods and with more continuity. So, I mean, from a business perspective, it makes sense to have a healthier, better workforce.
Sure.
I mean, for me, that's a bit of a no-brainer, and it has to incorporate all elements. So you have to look at the physical well-being of your employees. Are they doing some form of exercise? Can you facilitate that? I mean, with the digital platforms and all that we have available at the moment, there is absolutely no reason why you can't be helping your employees to have a digital online trainer, to have some online fitness that's all body weight, that's you don't need to be able to go to a gym or have access to expensive health club facilities.
Sure.
That you can do at home, or that you can do on a 15-20 minute break, that can mobilize you, help your position from when you're sitting all day. There's an incredible amount of information that can be created for your company that speaks to nutrition, what is best to eat for sustained energy. We're not talking about a diet, we're talking about looking at how food is energy and how it can sustain you and heal you and keep you well. We're talking about educating people on how to make better choices. We're not saying don't have this or do have that or it must weigh this. We're saying how do you make the best choices possible based on who you are, where you are, the type of budget that you have access to, and what you're wanting to get out of life. Then we look at mental well-being. How can you do things and give your employees access to things like coaching, developing coaching and journaling techniques, teaching them about communication. How do I communicate effectively in the workplace? How do I respect and understand the different cultures that surround me? How do I use those same tools that I'm being given at work and apply them to my home and family life so that I have a happier home and family life? How do we educate people about financial wellness? How do we teach them to do the basics of a budget? How do we help them understand complex financial information in a way that makes sense? I mean, sometimes I get sent stuff from my broker and I must be honest, I do not understand what that email says. How can we take that information and simplify it so that everybody has an understanding of their financial position? And then how can we help our employees to help their own families and to be able to share all the information that they've got in an easily accessible way? So how can they educate their children about finance, the preservation of wealth, nutrition, the importance of movement? There's such a ripple effect. I see it when companies invest in their employees. It's not just those employees that benefit, it's the entire community. You see them being so uplifted and people changing and things that people thought to be true being altered, and just a whole wellness community building. And that for me is just the absolute reason why I love what I do, is because it ripples out and it uplifts everybody. And it's so great to be an employer that you can make that difference by empowering your own workforce. It's just amazing.
True. My brother, the same brother, actually, he moved to Cape Town and he started a painting business. And I was speaking to him in January this year, and I was talking to him about, because I'm a health coach myself, and I was doing some health coaching for my brother, and I was talking to him about what his vision is for the future. And what he said was he wants to employ more people so that he can help more families. And I think it's a notion, or it's a thought for many employees, that they, from a good heart, they want to help people to be employed, to have a job. But I think this takes it one step further, So, and when you're talking about all these options, it makes me think, it's almost like I've hit this website and I want to go on holiday, but it's got all these options. And I'm like, oh, I can't afford all of them because, oh, do I want the spa for the day? Yes, I do want that. Oh, dear, it's going to cost me that much. But there's so many tick boxes that we could do as employers, not just giving them a job so that they can put food on their family's table. But there's a lot of tick boxes we could do, like we talk about, like give them advice on nutrition, give them this, and that. So what let's say somebody was starting out. So practically, let's talk about an SME. So a small enterprise, maybe the size of your company, say 20 people. They haven't got any of this in place at the moment. What would you say is the first step for someone to take to incorporate some of this into their company?
Okay, so the very first thing that, in my opinion, you have to get right is you have to get that communication channel right. So rather than telling your employees what they need, I think the first step is to ask them where they'd like help. So, as my workforce, we want to make your employee experience better. We want to work with you and your families to have, to have better, more meaningful lives.
Yeah.
What would you like? Would you like to know about fitness and wellness? Would you like to know about how to de-stress and mental health? Where would you like to start? I think getting everybody's buy-in and everybody's feedback is the first step. Once you've got that, then you can start to work it out. I mean, I agree. Like, we work with some really big companies that have huge employee experience teams that we work with. But very few companies have that, and very few companies have the budget allocated for that. Yeah. But a lot of this you can do at little to no cost. To you as a health coach will know, you could design a program for an SME that would cover a lot of that can be sent out over 6 months and broken out into 6 months into relevant bite-sized little pieces that each employee could start to take on board. And then you could focus on that for this year. Next year, you can focus on movement and and sport, and start to break that out. There's a wealth of information, and really to engage with a professional like yourself, or with different coaches. There are great programs that can be done that are not very expensive to set up and roll out to your employees. Obviously, always getting that feedback about how everybody's enjoying it. And the other thing is to look at the stuff that you have. I mean, Talk is a remote team. We've been remote for many years now. And the one thing that we've spent a lot of time doing is we've set out lots of automations and lots of things to emulate an office environment, in the sense that my team all get messaged at their relevant time zones when it's time for them to go and take lunch. And they get a little message that says, hey, friends, time to take lunch, go and have a walk. Have something healthy, don't forget to drink a glass of water. And they have all these various little automations that are built in that are prompts for them to focus on their health and well-being. That costs us nothing. It's just about taking the time to say, if that person was sitting in an office with me, how could I make their day better? How could I make sure that they are spending enough time on themselves? And how can I do that in a digital environment? So none of that costs anybody anything, and it's so easy to do. So I think that would be my advice, would just be like, take what you can do right now and just start really small and really slowly. And you'll start to see how people will give you ideas as well. And they'll be like, it would be great if we could do this. Yeah. People have a lot of ideas. And I think if you work with your team, you guys can guide, can be guided down the right path that's right for your business.
For sure. Sounds really good. Now, let's get on to the last question that I've got for you, and it's about, you mentioned it earlier actually, where you said use your employees to maybe to test some marketing on before you just have marketing out on customers, for example. So, what are some of the ways or ideas around harnessing the fact that your employees can be your best brand critics, and then conversely, your best brand ambassadors? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, the one thing I love is when campaigns are actually tested internally first, because I like the idea that people get to vote on the creative, they get to vote on the creatives that are elements that are going to market, because I think that you really get that buy-in from the start, because people are like, oh, I voted for that poster, I love that poster, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And immediately they start to share it, they start to talk about it, they start to tell friends and family. I mean, no company will ever tell you that word of mouth is bad advertising. So if your employees are excited about a product that's coming to market, and they've got to experience the process, you'll see them at, well, I mean, you'll know what a braai is, but you'll see them at parties or at events or dinners, all talking to each other, say, oh, you've got to see what we're coming up with. It's going to blow your mind. It's amazing. Like, it launches next month. So you definitely see that type of brand ambassadorship coming through. And like I said as well, they also give really great feedback. If you've promised to, let's say in your advert, to do something in 24 or 48 hours, potentially someone in operations can come back to you and say, you know what, this is actually not feasible. We actually cannot deliver on this because of X, Y, and Z, or we don't have vehicles in fleet that can manage that for these areas. Please don't forget to put that as a disclaimer. So they can potentially save your company a lot of money and a lot of embarrassment by pointing out things that potentially sales and marketing didn't know, but that ops knows. So I do think that it's really important that the entire company can get a bit of a look at what's going on. I mean, it's something one of my clients do really, really well. I mean, they have 50,000 employees, and they launch marketing initiatives and their social goodwill. They actually launch it into their company, and their company get to see this, get to see all the ideas. They actually then get to vote on the social initiatives that they think the company should be looking at. And they actually also have a layer of gamification built in that the employees can earn points and rewards and credits for doing specific things for the brand. And they can then spend that currency on the actual CSI project. I mean, just to give you an example, lots of people love the idea of painting a school. Very few people want to actually physically paint the school themselves. But everybody is more than happy to do a couple of things for the company if it means that the company will buy 5 liters of paint on their behalf. So there are really great ways that companies can use that engagement to do marketing, to do their social responsibility. And those that are harnessing it are just going from strength to strength because their employees are so interested in what's coming next. And they're so invested in the projects and the marketing that the company is actually doing that they are happy to be brand ambassadors and are constantly saying, you've got to come work for us. It's an amazing experience. And they get really high quality staff as well, which is amazing.
That's very important, high quality staff. Vishen from Mind Valley was talking about SpaceX and Tesla, one of the two companies that most upcoming intelligent engineers want to work for. And the reason that they want to work for these companies is because Elon Musk is good at telling the story. So he's good at saying, in 10 years, we want to do this. We want to populate Mars in 2025. And, you know, for companies, they need to really express their story. What is their 10-year vision? What do they want to do for the planet? What do they want to do for humanity? So if you're listening to this today, you're a business owner, you have to express what it is that you want to do as a company for your environment, for your community, for humanity at large. And really just express that in any way you can through your marketing, through your branding, whatever it may be. So I just thought that was a nice little takeaway, which I learned this morning as well when I was just going through my Instagram feed and seeing the people that I follow. And one thing I want to ask you before we go is the interesting things on the back of on your wall there, bulletproof, which is obviously for me synonymous with Dave Asprey and Bulletproof Coffee, but Bulletproof, the slogan obviously has been around for ages. But what are those three pictures about? Because you got the one that says "Love will tear us apart," and I think is that Wonder Woman behind you as well.
So it's actually Amy Winehouse's Wonder Woman.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a massive pop art and a bit of a Marvel DC kind of a geek. So these are actually a present from myself for my birthday a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love them. I think they're really cool.
No, it's brilliant. Yeah. Art is so important as well, to express ourselves. My dad just got into art. He's like, my dad got married to a mom in 1975, I think it was. They're still married. And they went to the Victoria Falls, and he's got these pictures, photographs of Victoria Falls when they went to there's a hotel there by the Victoria Falls. So my dad's been painting, he's got these photos and now he's painting them. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
He's not retired yet. So he's 67, I think. But my oldest brother, I've got 3 brothers actually. My oldest brother's trying to get him to retire. So he's like, just do some painting, Dad. Go and relax now. You've worked hard enough on your business. Go and relax.
He needs to position it as your dad's side hustle. He needs to be right, Dad. It's time to make your side hustle your primary business concern now.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Let the youngsters take over.
Oh, my mum's 68 and she's still one of the head developers at a big tech firm. So
it's true. I think nowadays 68 is not as old as what 68 used to be 20 years ago.
Well, certainly to me, it's not. As I've got older, I've definitely started to. I remember when I thought that 35 was incredibly old, and I was sure when I was 35 I'd be very responsible. And now being nearly 40, I know that being 35, you're still not very responsible.
And I think, to me, life at 40 changes. Well, no, I turned 43 years ago, so I'm 43 at the minute. And I think at 40, you start to think, it only dawned on me, oh, I'm not as young as I used to be. But at the same time, I fight these thoughts of I'm getting older, because it's not that old. I think 90 is old, but 40 something is not old. So you got to fight these thoughts of, oh, I'm getting older, I've got to watch out. And I've actually been pushing so just as you pushed yourself to do powerlifting and push those weights, I've been pushing myself to do the planche, which is quite a hard movement to sort of balance your body like that. But I tell you what, it's slow going, and the progress is so slow that it kind of demotivates me a little bit. But it's one of my goals for 2020 is to do the planche.
I think that's so important. And I think also just, I often see the guys saying, if there's something that you want to do, if you just start applying yourself now, put in 20 minutes each day or put in an hour each day. And I mean, in a year, you'll be so much better than you were. And in 10 years, you'll be one of the world's leading experts,
Yeah.
So I just look at it now and I just think, I've still got so much time to do all the things that I want to do. And I just need to start, and I just start doing a little bit of everything that I'm interested in, and yeah, we'll just go from there.
I like that because, James Clear, he's the guy who's wrote the book Atomic Habits, and he spoke about the British cycling team, and they were pretty rubbish, and they never won any kind of medals or races or anything for years and years and years. And this coach came along, and all he did was improve their habits by just 1%. So, instead of the simple things like washing their hands properly so that they didn't get sick, for example, or wearing certain kind of clothing just to give them that fraction of a second improvement in their racing. So all these little changes that they made helped them to actually win gold medal after gold medal. And it's those small little incremental changes that we do that can really pile up to give you that success. So that's the way I try to look at it. Like, I know that I'm not even a fraction of the way to my planche, but I know that if I just keep doing it every day, I'll be 1% better than I was yesterday. But that 1% is just hard to feel, that 1%. That's why we give up. That's what I think.
No, 100%, that's why I like weightlifting. I mean, literally sometimes I can lift something at 120, but I can't lift it at 122.
Yeah.
And that just kills me. It irritates me so much. But, when I look back and I think that when I started, I couldn't lift 60,
Exactly.
So sometimes it's also just important to take stock and look back and then know that in another few years, I'll feel that way about 140. So yeah, it's that one small thing every day applied over time, isn't it?
For sure. Yeah. Although there is a plateau. So we
Yeah,
can
no,
go
sure.
exponentially up, but then there's a certain limit to what mankind can do. So yeah. Sally, it's been so good talking to you.
Thanks, Clint. I
Yeah,
enjoyed
no
it.
worries. And for the listeners, it's talk.pro. I'll have it down in the description of the podcast. So if you want to get your business going, employee experience jacked up, and to really attract those awesome employees, that's what it's about, Sally, right?
Yep.
Getting the right people to work for you so that you can also improve your customer base. Speak to Sally Acton. And you also, do you work globally with companies outside of South Africa?
Yes, we do.
Awesome. So all over the world, it's a global market now. So check out talk.pro. Sally Acton, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Clint. Have a great day.
Thank you.